So Elizabeth Warren has released her Medicare for All rollout plan, and it appears to be a public option, or essentially Medicare for those who want it, like Pete Buttigieg. So before I show you a clip of Elizabeth Warren explaining it, it's essentially going to be two pieces of legislation. So the first piece, which allows people to opt into Medicare for All, and it lowers the age. And so that's the first piece of legislation of it. Then there's a second piece that would come 3 years later that would then, 3 years later, try to ban duplicate insurance, private insurance that Medicare for All already offers. So before I show you her clip, the problem with this is how, like, it's tough enough to try to get one piece of healthcare passed through Congress, let alone two pieces. The fight needs to be the way that Bernie Sanders is approaching it, where it's all in one. So his Medicare for All plan is over 4 years, and it slowly eliminates private insurance while lowering the age to be eligible. So by passing one piece of legislation, you only have to worry about one fight. Under Warren's plan, you have to worry about two different fights. And the second fight's going to be, the first fight will be impossible to begin with because Republicans are going to fight you anyways. But the second fight is also going to be impossible because both Democrats and Republicans are going to fight you. The difference with the way Bernie is doing it is he actually has a plan. He's building a mass movement of people to put pressure on their various politicians to get it passed. Elizabeth Warren doesn't have that movement, doesn't have that plan. So let me show you here how Elizabeth Warren explains it.
I'll lower the cost of critical drugs that millions of Americans rely on, like insulin and breakthrough treatments for deadly diseases. And then, in my first 100 days, I'll drop the Medicare age to 50 and let every person in America join a Medicare for All option for little or no cost. I'll crack down on Washington corruption that lets insurance and drug companies block real change. These actions will bring us a big step closer to Medicare for All. By the end of my third year, we'll vote to transition everyone to Medicare for All. At this point, millions of Americans will have already experienced the full benefits of Medicare for All. They'll be able to compare the new system against the corrupt and wasteful system that exists today, and the choice will be clearer than ever. Medicare for All is cheaper, and it provides better care.
So that's not how it's going to work. What Elizabeth Warren is doing here is allowing private interests to then drain the public system of resources, offset all the sick people under the public system, and then have private insurance for those that can afford it. So she is allowing massive corporations, private insurance companies, she is giving them a 3-year window to essentially ramp up and get ready for this fight against Medicare for All that would outlaw their duplicate insurance of Medicare for All. So this is not a good plan. And it's not just me saying this. There's other people out there. Let me show you right here, Ryan Cooper. So Ryan Cooper, who is the national correspondent for The Week, he tweets this out. Splitting this bill into two and only passing the Medicare for All part 3 years in is insane. If the next president gets to pass anything at all, virtually certain to be the first 2 years only. So he goes on to say, let me zoom in here. Going to dig into this later, but just like the financing head tax gimmick, this is too cute by half. I think what bugs me most about this move is it muddles up questions of priority and tactics. Political leaders should run on simple, straightforward ideas with the understanding that they will negotiate for as close to the goal as they can get. Now we've got people talking about the Senate map in 2022 and what is most realistic and pragmatic politically and whatnot. But that is supposed to be the job of the professional politician. What do I know about what do I know about what Joe Manchin might be induced to support? What do any of us know? Getting that vote for the best possible thing is why we elect presidents and party leaders in the first place. Now, instead of pushing the party message with simple slogans repeated over and over, we're lost in the weeds of unknowable future Congresses. I'm doing it too. Hell's bells. So this is the issue. Too cute by half. Elizabeth Warren is getting way too into the weeds. This is a primary race on big ideas. Are you going to pass Medicare for all? Okay. But when you get into, okay, I'm going to pass it in 3 years, are you going to have the Senate in 3 years? Are you going to have the House in 3 years? Are you going to be able to have that fight again 2 years later? I mean, I could just imagine, you can hear the media now. After, let's say Elizabeth Warren gets the first part passed, which is essentially a public option. Let's say she gets it passed. In 2 years, when it's time for Medicare for all, they're going to say, well, we just went through this huge fight to get the public option. Is it really worth going through the fight again for Medicare for all? Just the way they're doing it right now with the ACA. Oh, we had this huge fight to get the ACA passed. Is it really worth fighting for something better? We're going to hear this crap over and over and over. You have to come to the table with the actual plan. You have to fight for Medicare for all. If that is not what you're fighting for in the first 2 years, it's not going to happen. So this is like all of us that want to assume Elizabeth Warren means well and, she has a plan, but is she going to fight? Her plans aren't even good. This is not a good plan. So forget about, Elizabeth Warren has a plan for that. This is a horrible plan. So even apart from the fact that she doesn't have the movement, the movement doesn't have the amount of support, the grassroots support that Bernie has, doesn't have the strategy of putting pressure on politicians, including Democratic politicians. Bernie Sanders has said he would go to West Virginia, rally voters there to put pressure on Joe Manchin to support Medicare for all. And if Joe Manchin still doesn't support it, Bernie would support a primary challenger to Joe Manchin. Is Elizabeth Warren going to do that? I was going to call her a lifelong Democrat, but she's not. But lifelong Democrat in the Senate. Is Elizabeth Warren going to do that? No. Bernie Sanders is a lifelong independent. He has no attachments to either party. He has no reason to not fight Joe Manchin or any other Democrat to get his agenda passed because his focus, Bernie's focus, is the people. Warren, meanwhile, is trying to balance all these interests, trying to balance the interests of the Democratic Party, trying to balance the interests of the American people, trying to balance the interests of corporations. When you're trying to do that, what ends up happening is you compromise to the people that have the power. You compromise to the Democratic Party and you compromise to corporate interests. You don't compromise to the American people. Your laser focus has to be on the American people, or you're not going to get plans through that are actually helping the vast majority of Americans. Elizabeth Warren's plan here, her rollout plan, is not good. So, I got worked up there, sorry. I have healthcare, right? I live in Canada. I live under a single payer system. There's no arguing against it. There's no argument. The only argument is we need more. So in Canada, I want dental care to be universal. I want pharmacare to be universal because the parts of our system that are universal are great. So let's extend that to everything else. That is the only issue. The issue here is not that we don't have enough private interest. We don't have enough for-profit interest in our healthcare system. That's never the problem in a healthcare system. When you have for-profit interests trying to make money off of sick people, off of denying people coverage, how can you possibly defend that? Even apart from the actual benefits of a single payer system, how can you just defend on the merits? How can you defend a for-profit healthcare system? There's no defense of it. So, again, but then I can get into the benefits of a single payer system. I mean, the freedom of never thinking about healthcare until I need it. I just walk into a doctor's office, have my health card, walk into any doctor's office, any healthcare clinic, any walk-in clinic, health card, see a doctor. I have my family doctor. Make an appointment same day, see her. If she's not available, again, walk into any walk-in clinic. Single payer means single payer. You're all on the same system. You have freedom of choice in doctors, freedom of healthcare providers. You have total freedom. Medicare for all is freedom. So, and freedom when it comes to career. You can leave your job now. You're not tied to your employer because of your healthcare. You can leave your job, start a business, go back to school. Start a business, hire people, and not have to give them healthcare because they already have healthcare through a single payer system. We can go on and on and on. There's no arguing against a Medicare for all single payer system. So for Elizabeth Warren to not fight this immediately is the wrong strategy. It's a horrible plan. And if you care about healthcare, if you care about getting Medicare for all passed, you should not support Elizabeth Warren. You should support Bernie Sanders.